So why do we want what we want? I was listening to an interview by Bernard Pullman this morning called The Resonant Seed. And in that interview, he talks about how we learn language, symbols, from the time we're very young. He talks about that formation process of words which become ideas, etc., inside of us. And we're also exposed to a lot of imagery when we're growing up. And especially in today's age, growing up, for example, I'm 33, almost 34, but when I was growing up, when I was in adolescence and as a teenager, that's when the internet was basically first being introduced. And so you can imagine, obviously, the things that I was exposed to at a very young age, and that many males in our society are, and also females. And nowadays, that was, 20 years ago, I guess, about 20 years ago or more. Now it's even more pervasive, and the things that children are exposed to, it's kind of funny because I had a 12-year-old that I was working with, because I work with a lot of families doing Technotutor and presenting that to them. And I had this one family that I was working with, and the child, I think he was 12 years old. He was a very precocious child, and he was telling me all about the Illuminati. It was kind of funny because you have this 12-year-old talking about the Illuminati and, showing me Illuminati memes, and it's just like, it made me really consider how, YouTube didn't even start until 2005 when I was a junior in college. And of course, you're on YouTube, and then the first thing I see is like videos about 9/11 and stuff like that. And it's like now kids that are 8, 9, 10 years old are looking at this kind of stuff, and all kinds of things I'm probably not even aware of what's on there. My point is, the words and the images that we're exposed to from a young age influence and determine the things that we will focus on later as adults. And a lot of images are presented to us repeatedly through media. And so when you consider what it is that you want, if you actually wrote down on a piece of paper all the things you want, I'm sure you might come up with some sort of more conceptual things like love and happiness and things like that. But if you write down specific things that you want, and especially those who are focused on law of attraction and, manifesting and things like that, when you consider the things that you want, like I want a black Mercedes, let's say. It's like, why do you want a black Mercedes? Why do you want that car? What is it about it? And you might have a very honest answer of like, I just want to feel wealthy, or I want other people to, see me as wealthy and be jealous of me, or whatever it is, or I just want to feel good. Or you might say it's the best automobile. I've done all the research and it has the best, driving experience and safety and all that, and it's fine. Whatever your reason is, it doesn't really matter. But at the end of the day, all of us, to some level, want to be wealthy. And I know we'll have people say, oh, I don't care about money. But the thing is, you do. If you're honest with yourself, you're either aware that you care about money, or you're not aware that you care about money. You don't have a choice but to care about money. Because those who say they don't care about money, what you'll notice if you observe them is money controls their life probably more than it controls people who are honest with themselves that they want money and they want wealth and they want those things. People who, and I see them all the time on Facebook, people who act like they don't care about money and stuff, but then they're always asking people for money, or they're always doing things for donations, or it's just such bullshit. It's like, you need money to live in this world. And there's nothing wrong with wanting money, because when you consider what money allows you to do in this world, it allows you to be comfortable, it allows you to have your basic needs met, it allows you to have comforts beyond those things, it allows you to experience new places and new people and have interesting food, and it allows you to do a lot of things. So there's nothing wrong with that desire. And I think if people were just more honest with themselves about it, it would be much easier for them to make money. Because one of the first rules of making money, and you listen to Your Wish Is Your Command, I think it's in that audio, it's in some of the Gen training. One of the first rules that Kevin talks about is if you want to make money, he says the first thing you have to want is you have to want money. The first thing you have to do is you have to want money. So you can't make money unless you want it. And so if you don't want it, you're limiting yourself. And some people will want it at a subconscious level and not realize it, and they'll still make money. But my point is, consider, for example, the people that, and see, I'm really specifically talking about your life coaches and your law of attraction people and your positive thinkers and these types of folks, okay? We tend to hold up these examples of really successful people, and we always like use their quotes, and we, you know, look up to them as examples of these wealthy people, successful people. But in reality, we just want to be like them because they're very successful and have a lot of money. That's why we use them as examples, because think about it. Does anyone actually want to be Jesus? I mean, I see successful people, or people who want to be successful, quoting Jesus and quoting the Bible and stuff, but does anyone actually want to be Jesus? Like, would you be willing to die on a cross if that's what it took? Now the question is, you might say, well, I don't need to die on a cross to get what I want, and that's perfectly understandable. So then my point in this video is, what do you want and why do you want it? Why do you want to be rich? Why do you want to be famous? Why do you want to have all those things? Is it because that's all you can perceive as important and valuable? And then the next question would be, what do you want those things for everybody? Or is it just for yourself? And the reason why that's an important thing to consider is not to judge yourself per se. It's just that, what if we lived in a world where all those things that we want, we could have automatically just by being born? It's like a gift. It's like when you wake up in the morning, you take a breath, and there's air already there for you. You don't have to work for it. And you walk outside, and depending on where you live, there's sunshine, but there's definitely air to breathe. And, you know, but then it's kind of like beyond that, there's nothing really guaranteed. But where does the air come from? It's just here. There's a system of nature on Earth which has air, which we're a part of, and we actually get access to that for nothing. It used to be like that with natural resources, maybe at some point. You know, you could just go to a stream and get clean water. It's not like that anymore. And I'm not saying we need to go back to some primitive times where we're all walking around like dipping out of streams and stuff. But my point is, what if we had a world where all the things that you would want, that you would reasonably want for yourself, that wouldn't harm other people to have? You know, like if you want certain experiences that you might want would require harming other people. So you have to be honest with yourself as to whether those experiences would harm other people. Like, if you just want to experience killing people, like that's not a rational or reasonable desire to have. It's not an acceptable desire to have. But if you want to experience having the freedom to travel anywhere in the world at any time that you want, that I would say is a reasonable, rational desire. But to do that right now, what does it require? It requires that there's pilots. It requires that there's, flight attendants, that there's ground crews, that there's baggage handlers, that there's people who like sweep and clean up the airport. It requires a whole infrastructure and a whole system of people that have jobs at different and various levels of income to provide you with the physical ability to just travel anywhere you want, unless you have a private jet. But then even if you have a private jet, someone's got to be the flight attendant, someone's got to make the jet, someone's got to fuel it, someone has to drive the fuel, someone has to create the fuel, you have to have workers who sweep the factories at the fuel factory or whatever. My point is, like, there's a whole system of people required for you to have like one singular desire, even if it's a desire that in itself doesn't seem to harm other people. But then think about it, like, you want to have that freedom, but then would you grant that, like, What if, in order for you to have that freedom, you had to grant that freedom to every other person in the world who wanted it? And do you think that there's a child or a person in India or Africa who would like to have that same freedom who obviously doesn't? So then the question is, well, why do you want that freedom, but you, even in spite of the fact that you know it's not guaranteed for anybody else, why do you deserve it? Just because you want it? What if somebody else wants it and they don't have a practical way to get it? And you can bullshit yourself all day long and say, we can lie to ourselves and say, well, whatever you focus on, that's what you get. How do you focus on things like freedom of travel and freedom of movement if you're a 7-year-old child literally going to bed hungry every night? How do you focus on that? Imagine for yourself, like whenever you stub your toe or something goes wrong at work, like how easy is it for you to focus on what you want? And now you want to place someone in a situation where they literally don't have enough to eat every day. How do they focus on what they want? Look at it practically. Don't delude yourself, because a lot of times we will delude ourselves and we will deny the obviousness of the truth of something because we don't have a solution for it. And it makes us feel bad, and it makes us feel negative, and we don't want to feel negatively because then we're worried that something bad will happen. But the truth is, bad things are already happening every single day to people around the world unnecessarily. A child going to bed hungry is unnecessary. There's no justifiable reason for it. If you are going to bed every night with a full belly, like I do, there's no reason why we shouldn't provide that for children. Now, the problem is, or the difference is, you may feel guilty about it, and I don't feel guilty about it. Because I understand what the solution is, and I understand what's required. So, guilt is an unnecessary feeling, and actually feeling guilty about the problem is the way we absolve ourselves of responsibility, because we say, oh, well, I feel guilty, I feel bad that child starves, but then I don't have to do anything about it. I'm a good person for feeling the guilt. It's like the same thing as saying like, oh, I love everybody, so therefore I'm doing all I need to do. I just am loving everybody, so therefore I'm a good person, so therefore I'm justified in all the things that I'm doing and desiring and all of that in my life. Not realizing that all the things I'm doing and desiring are requiring other people in other countries to literally be slaves. And you might say, well, how the hell does me wanting to travel the world and have the freedom to travel the world require slaves in other countries like India? And when I say slaves, I just mean people on the negative end of the spectrum, meaning people who don't have the freedoms and the comfort and the resources that you have. How does your desire for financial freedom do that? Because when you really understand and study how currency exchanges work and currency valuations, and the fact that resource-rich countries like South Africa or Nigeria, or countries in Africa, for example, resource-rich countries are exploited using currency manipulation by other countries that have no resources, like Great Britain, for example, the UK as an example, Norway, And I'm not saying these countries have no resources, but I'm saying when you compare it, the level of value of their currency versus the value of the currency of a country which has tons of resources, it doesn't make any sense. And the reason why is so that the countries which have all the resources can be exploited at a, let's say, 10-to-1 ratio. And the money doesn't go back into the countries where the resources are being taken from. So you have situations where you have literally people in Africa starving while their country is worth, I don't know, billions or trillions of dollars of, rare minerals and things like oil and gold and stuff like that, and water or whatever the resources are. They have tons of resources, and you have people starving. When those countries, the people should be living like kings. Like, if the tables were turned and the currency was valued based on the actual resources, those countries would be so wealthy beyond our imagination, and countries like people in countries like Great Britain would be like starving. But the difference is the people in countries like Great Britain have things like the English language or European languages, Roman alphabet-based languages, which are very effective languages for writing laws and creating concepts and controlling people, especially when the people you're trying to control don't have those languages. they can't form the same concepts in their minds. So it's interesting because some people think the solution is, well, in those countries like Nigeria, the governments are just corrupt, and so it's their fault, and it's the people's responsibility to overthrow their governments and get better leadership. But they don't speak English. It's not a coincidence that that the U.S. Constitution, or that the Declaration of Independence, or that the Magna Carta are English language documents. The English language is the most powerful language on the planet. It's a technology. Think about it. Really think about it. Why is it that China, with 1 billion people, is nowhere near as powerful as the Great Britain? Don't even compare it to the U.S. I'm talking about, it's not even as powerful as Great Britain. And yet they have 1 billion people. And how many people does Great Britain have? Now, and I'm not talking about the current political climate and maybe all the decline that you're seeing. That's that point aside. My point is just look at history, okay? China's like heyday was thousands of years ago, and yet they have way more people now. It's because of the way the language constructs work in their language. It doesn't allow people to have the same freedom of thought and consciousness and control over reality that the English language does. So this is going back to the point I started with originally in terms of why do you want what you want? And it's what I'm saying is it's because of the information that's stored within you that you picked up when you were very little. The symbols, the imagery, which are based on symbols, because an image to two different people means two different things. For example, let's say you look at a picture of a dog. Okay, this is gonna piss some people off. Let's say you look at a picture of a dog. You might look at that picture and be like, oh, what a cute little fluffy puppy, I want to kiss him and let him lick me in the face. And like somebody in North Korea is like, that's lunch, baby, like I want to fry that sucker up. And somebody in in a Muslim country might be like, that is a filthy pig animal, like just get it out of here, it's a filthy, disgusting thing. And I don't know actually how these cultures work. It's just a common stereotype. But my point is, 3 different people can look at the same picture and have totally different ideas about what that picture means. So, people will tell me all the time, they try to argue with me and say, it's not words that are important. That our mind doesn't work based on words. Our mind works based on pictures. No, it fucking doesn't. I'm sorry, it doesn't fucking work on pictures. Think about a computer. If you try to put a picture into a computer, it can't fucking understand it. When you put a picture into a computer, what it does is it breaks it down into pixels, and it breaks it down based on each pixel in the picture has a certain number associated with it that tells the computer the color to put in that little spot. The computer doesn't see it as a picture. It sees it as a bunch of positions, as coordinates on a grid with numbers. In other words, they're words, they're letters, they're symbols. A number is just a number is just a letter. Okay, a number is not different than a letter. It's exactly the same. The meaning we give to it is the same as how we give meaning to a letter. It doesn't mean anything except what we assign to it. So you don't, the way our brains work, it's not really our brains, but the way we process information is very similar to a computer. In fact, a computer is a reflection of how we process information as human beings. And I know people will say, oh no, we're not computer processors. That's not how we work. We are transmitters and receivers of vibration, frequency, and energy. Yes, but so is a computer. Think about it. A computer has a physical program stored physically on the hard drive. It's based on ones and zeros, and it's stored physically as little electrical switches, circuits, logic gates. They open or close like a drawbridge. And when the drawbridge is closed, electricity flows across to the next part of the wire to the next circuit. When the drawbridge is open, the energy stops flowing, the electricity stops flowing, and so the energy can't flow through there, so it gets rerouted to a different part. And that's how a computer stores information. And I'm not explaining it in detail because I could probably talk for an hour about that, but you can go look it up. How does a computer process information? How does it store information? We do the same thing. We have neurons. A neuron is no different than a computer logic circuit from the perspective that it's kind of like that same situation. You have a gap between two cells in a neuron, and electricity flows from one to the other. How does it do that? Because there's chemicals on one side. So when the electrical impulse comes in, it releases chemicals. They float across a gap. They attach to receptors on the other side. The chemicals go into the other side of the cell in the neuron. It depolarizes the cell, which means it changes the electrical polarity of the cell. So then the electrical charge passes on through the cell to the next part of the neuron. And it is a very similar process as to how a computer works. But a computer also transmits and receives vibration, frequency, and energy. That's how you get internet. Think about it. Like your phone, your computer broadcasts an energetic frequency. It sends a signal to a cell tower or to a Wi-Fi transmitter, and then it receives information that way as well, which is just a vibration that floats through the air. But it has to process that vibration. And the way it processes the vibration is through this process I just described, which is analogous to how a computer processes the information. It's analogous to how a body processes the information. So yes, we are receivers and transmitters of frequency, energy, and vibration, but that is not how we process information. How you process the frequency is based on the symbols inside of you. It's based on the words that you know and the definitions that you have of those words, which in essence, all of the words that you know, the definitions, and how all the words are connected forms your circuitry, if you will, just like how a computer has a hard drive. That's the words and symbols that you've learned in your life, the numbers, everything, form the circuitry inside of your body, which determines how you process energy that comes in. So when energy comes in through your eyes, it gets converted into electrical energy and chemical energy inside your body, and then you process that information and assign meaning to those electrical impulses. So for example, when you look at a picture of a dog, depending on your cultural programming, your cultural symbolism that you've learned from a young age, you will then assign meaning automatically without thinking. And you can do it consciously, but it mostly happens automatically, unconsciously. This is what we call unconscious competence. You automatically assign meaning and value to the image that you see based on the circuitry inside of you, which, as I said, is formed solely, completely upon the words and the definitions that you have given to those words. So going back to the original point of this video, which was, why do you want what you want? You have to understand. And, well, you don't have to understand it. You can be a freaking ignorant idiot if you want. But I would implore you to consider what I'm explaining to you, that what you want is totally defined and determined by the symbols and the information and the words that were programmed into you from a young age, from 0 to 7, and actually before that, because everybody is born with different DNA, and that DNA contains information, and so that's a large part of it as well. But again, it's still just, it's computer code. It's like software that comes pre-installed on the computer. So, you know, depending on your DNA, you'll have certain abilities and so forth. We talked about that yesterday, I think. But my point is, the things that you want, the images that you place value and meaning upon, is not happening because of your conscious choice. So why do you think gold is valuable? Because our culture and our society says that it's valuable. And you've seen pictures and images through the ages, and you see rich people wearing gold. And you can tell me, oh, it's rare, it's limited. Maybe it is. How do you know it's limited? You're just assuming. How do you know the earth doesn't just produce it? Like, for example, think about it. Is your blood limited? Maybe at any given moment, if you take all the blood out of your body, you're dead. But doesn't your body continually produce more blood? What if that's how oil works? What if that's how gold works? I don't know. Maybe it's not. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying, why do we place value on gold? Why do we place value on silver? Why do we place... I mean, there's some people who, like, put gold flakes on their food, and, like, as, like, you know, some desserts and stuff. Like, they eat the gold and stuff. So it can't be that valuable if they're eating it. Why do we place value on things just because they're limited anyways? Why? Just because we agreed to it. You know, in some cultures, they would, like, use seashells as currency and stuff like that. Gold is not valuable because it's shiny, and because it's limited. It's valuable because we as humans have agreed that it has value. A case in point is the diamond industry. I know someone who is heavily involved in the gemstone and diamond industry, and you could probably research this for yourself, but they explained how the amount of diamonds in this world is artificially limited. There's like an overabundance of very fine diamonds, but they're kept like, artificially limited so that they have perceived value. And I mean, have you ever looked at a diamond just like as it is? It just looks like a stupid, dirty piece of rock. It doesn't even look that interesting. So they polish it up, they make it shiny, just like gold, and then everyone thinks it has value. It doesn't have value. Like, if someone were to give me a diamond right now, I would not be impressed by it. Now, is it useful because other people perceive it as valuable and then I could sell it and then, make money? Obviously. I'm not naive. I'm not stupid. I understand that other people perceive it as valuable and therefore they're willing to pay money for it. But let me put it this way. Like, what if I put a starving child in front of you? Like, if I took a diamond, like a 20 carat diamond, I don't know if that's a lot of carats or not, but let's say I took a 20 carat diamond and I put that in front of you and I said, you can have this. Or I put a starving child in front of you and I said, you can solve this. Which one would you do? Would you take the diamond and then go sell it? Now, you can't do both. Would you take the diamond and go sell it and take that money, or would you solve the starving child's problem? Now, what are you going to do? Like, just give the child some food? What are you going to do the next day? What are you going to do? Are you going to become the child's parent? Are you going to take it into your house and raise it? How many starving children are there? Are you really going to solve the problem by just... So, it's just like a Sophie's choice. It would actually probably be more in your own best interest, in their best interest, for you to take the diamond and get the money. But then the question is, what do you do with it? Because some people will give money to homeless people. It doesn't help them. In fact, it only encourages them to continue begging. And honestly, even if you don't give them money, are they ever going to do anything else? Probably not. So it's a lose-lose situation. If you give them money, it encourages them to keep begging. They don't take responsibility for their life. If you don't give them money, somebody else might give them money, but even if you don't, that person's still not going to have the effective vocabulary and education to take themselves out of that situation. There's a reason why they're begging in the first place. And they could just be scamming, but they could just be a homeless person who doesn't have any other opportunities that they're aware of. And they don't have the education to actually do anything else. So my point there is, you can't solve the problem by trying to solve the problem. It's like if you have a cold and you try to solve it by taking cold medicine. It's not cold medicine, it's just symptom medicine. It's just suppressing your symptoms, not changing anything about the cold itself. It's not addressing why you have it. But if you're just interested in relieving the symptom, then you can do that. If you're just interested in relieving your guilt of seeing this starving person while you have money and you benefit from money, then you can give them money. And that's why a lot of people give money to homeless. That's why everybody gives money to homeless people. I don't give money to homeless people because I don't feel guilty about it. And I know it's not going to help them. It's not going to help them. They're just going to be there tomorrow. And so am I going to spend my time going and working and then giving money to that homeless person? I know for a fact there are thousands of homeless people. So if I'm going to give money to this guy, how come I don't go out and make it about my day to go and give money to every single homeless person in the city every day? So if you're out there saying, whoa, Cameron's such a bad guy because he doesn't give money to homeless people. I give money to homeless people. Every homeless person I see, I give them a little something. But you're fucking dishonest because there's other homeless people. So I would challenge you, if you're one of these people who gives money to homeless people, go out there all day, every day, and find every single homeless person you can and spend all of your time giving them money. And watch them not even be grateful. And watch their situation not even change. And then what's going to happen is you're going to spend all your time and money focused on that, and you're going to become homeless because you're not going to spend time doing anything else. So it's not a solution. And even if you give your money to charities, it's like they're so ineffective that the money doesn't even really, most of it, go to the homeless people. It doesn't solve the problem. The problem is the money system that we all participate in. That's the problem. But that's not going to change by not participating in it. It's not going to change by refusing to use money. It's not going to change by using Bitcoin. It's not going to change by using gold. It's not going to change by bartering. It's not going to change by having a resource-based economy. It's not going to change. The only thing that's going to change it is if we all stand up, or enough of us stand up and say, it's unacceptable that anybody starves in this world, and we are going to solve this problem, and we're going to adjust the systems that are automatically distributing resources to certain places based on laws and economic principles, etc., and make sure that everybody has what they need. So when I started this video, the question was, why do you want what you want? Are you waking up every day thinking, I want a Ferrari, I want a brand new car, I want a big nice house, I want money, I want this, this, and this? Or are you thinking, I want to solve the problem of why children go to bed hungry every night and 21,000 children die every single day of preventable causes, unnecessary deaths, unnecessary suffering? And that's not even including all the other people who suffer on a daily basis. That's just the children that are dying every day. Now, you may not know how to solve that problem. And there's nothing wrong with, if you're focused on solving that problem, becoming wealthy. Because the system itself isn't going to change simply because you want to solve the problem. It'll only change as we stand up and rewrite the laws and make the adjustments that are required. It's like if you had a business consultant. The business consultant, let's say you have a failing company. The business consultant comes in and says, all right, everybody wants the company to succeed, right? And they all say yes. Well, the company doesn't suddenly start succeeding. They have to then say, okay, well, here's the changes I would suggest. You must implement these changes, do them consistently, and then you'll see the changes. And the good business consultants are the one that are able to get the leadership to actually, in the company, employees and everything, to actually implement those changes, assuming that they're good changes to implement. So just by us wanting to change the system so that everybody is cared for equally is not going to change anything. We have to then implement it. Now, the next question is, how do we implement it? Well, instead of focusing on how do we implement it and arguing right now in the details of the system that would be required and all the details of that, let's not argue about that. Let's just consider. Let's say we were able to agree on rules of a system that would care for everybody, but not hold anybody back. So I'm not talking about what you think of as communism or socialism, where everybody is brought down to a poor level and then just is stuck there while one person is like the king. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm saying, what if we were creative as human beings, which we know we are, because we know what we can conceive and bring ourselves to believe we can achieve. Okay? We know that. So we can, if we can conceive of a system that would care for everybody equally, that would also allow us to thrive and flourish and experience creativity and fun and enjoyment and follow our passions, etc. If we could conceive that that's possible, and then we could bring ourselves to believe it, then we could achieve it. Think about it. Can we conceive of a monetary system based on a limited thing called gold and believe that that is valuable, and then achieve a system based on that? Yes, we can do the same thing with paper, fiat money, and all this other stuff. So whatever we conceive and bring ourselves to believe, we can achieve. The question is, what are we conceiving? Why are we conceiving? That's the question I was asking to start this, is why do you want what you want? Why are you conceiving of things in a certain way? It's because of the words and the symbols and the images and everything that you've seen throughout your whole life. And I mean, think about it. It's a very challenging situation, because when you're born in this world, you don't know anything. You only have some genetic propensities, some aptitudes, but you don't even know how to utilize them. You don't even know how to take a shit properly. You don't even know how to wipe your own ass. So you can't tell me, oh, children, they're geniuses and they know everything when they're born. Bull fucking shit. Like, I have an 11-month-old. He can't wipe his own butt. You know, if I take his diaper off and let him run around, he pisses on the floor. I don't do that because I learned how to pee in a toilet, right? So you have to learn these things. Now, the problem is when you're born into a world and you look around and you see everyone's competing for survival and everyone's placing value on money, and you know there's homeless people and you know there's children starving, but then it doesn't seem like any fucking adult in your environment gives two fucking shits about it, then what happens is you just learn, like, well, that's just the way it is. Like, that's just how it is. I have to just live in this world, and I guess it's just a fucking callous, uncaring world. And anytime I express any concern about anything, I get shit upon, I get yelled at, and I get told just to focus on learning my algebra and my chemistry and my biology and physics, because if I don't do that, I won't make any money in this world, which seems to be the only thing anyone cares about. And being wealthy and successful. And so, you have all these life coaches which are trying to life coach people on being successful. But they don't even fucking know what success is. They don't even know what life is. Life is not just making money. And it's really challenging because we all want to make money. I want to make money. Money is good. It allows us to do things. But in order to make money, you have to participate in a system of abuse. Yes, Rocco, I want to walk. Rocco's asking me if I want to walk today. Yes, I do. I'm at the golf course right now. So we're participating in this system and we're trying to be successful within it. So I'm not downing or dogging anybody who is supporting other people to do that. So if you're a life coach, don't get me wrong, understand it's good what you're doing because you're helping people break out of their limitations. Because if we have a poverty mindset for ourselves and believe that we can't be successful and we can't be wealthy and we have blocks and limitations towards that, then we're never going to be able to do anything. We're just going to be victims of the situation. So I like that life coaches teach people to stop being victims. But it would be in your best interest as a life coach and in your client's best interest if you would realize for yourself that what's really important in this world is solving the problems that exist. So the starting point, the why behind why you want to be wealthy must be clear. Because if it's not, then you're going to end up down the road regretting. And you're going to end up having a midlife crisis. And you're going to end up having a crash. Because if you're not already successful, it means you do care. It means you're not the kind of person who's willing to be fucking ruthless as hell and just slit everybody's throats to make money. That's why you're not successful. If you want to know the secret to being successful, it's just, in terms of money in this world, in business and so forth, it's just about being psychological and understanding how people work and utilizing that to manipulate them to give you money. And doing it in a legal way. Because you can do it like a mafia boss, but if you're okay with that, do it. I'm just saying, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't want to face the consequences of that. Because there's probably a lot of fear associated with that. But when you understand how the economy works and money works and everything, you realize that even all the mafia and stuff, the system still supports it. So I'm not saying go do that, obviously. But my point is, if you're not already super successful, it's because you're not willing to do what it takes to be successful in this world. You're not willing to go there. So what I want to do is create a system. I'm not talking about the ultimate, answer to poverty and stuff. I'm just talking about within where we're at right now. I want to create a system where people who are not yet successful can be successful, can make a lot of money, and can support other people to make a lot of money, but can also support other people to really understand and change within so that we can face the problems that exist in this world. And we can become wealthy by solving those problems. And then adjust the system and make the changes so that the problems don't exist anymore. And then as human beings, we can be in harmony with each other and then go to the next level beyond just having to make money all the time and be focused on making money. Imagine if that was already set and taken care of, down the road in the future, 20 years from now. We've already solved the problem of poverty, so no one has to compete for survival. In other words, money isn't the object. Money is just a measure of what you're able to create in this world. It's just like a tool. It's not something you desire in itself. Then what would you do? Then what would you create? We would create I don't know, spaceships that would fly to the sun and we wouldn't burn up and we could go fly inside of the sun and we could have moon boots that would make us jump all the way, to the moon. And I don't know, I'm just making stupid shit up. My point is we could create all kinds of cool stuff. But it's not okay to be focused on creating cool stuff while people are starving and you're just creating the cool stuff to make money, and you're actually limiting your creativity within that because everybody's not at their full creative potential. So you're not really being creative. You're just making something to make a lot of money only. What if we could do both? What if we could make money? We could support and educate people to really fundamentally change and become more effective and to be caring and compassionate and solve the problems that exist. And then we could all go to a whole nother level. I mean, that would be a real mastermind. And I think that would be a lot of fun, is to solve those problems. It's going to take all of our creativity to do that. It's going to take all of our passion. It's going to take all of our focus, determination. It's going to take everything of us. But it'll be a lot of fun. Like, it will be a lot of fun. Because ultimately, being ruthless and being heartless and uncaring and all that stuff is not fun, in my opinion. But if you have fun doing it, then I guess keep doing it. But eventually you will experience the consequences of not supporting everyone equally. Because that's what happens. That's what karma means. That's what it means to live in a world where you give as you want to receive. Whatever you give is what you will eventually receive, whether you experience it now or in the hereafter. So really consider why you want what you want. Really dig down into it and ask yourself, why do I want this thing that I think I want? And maybe it's just a goal that you've set because you know people place value on it and it costs a certain amount of money, and you're developing yourself to expand and make more money so you can be more effective in this world and so you can actually solve some of these problems. Hey, I think that you would be right on track, right? That's what I do. So that's on track. But if you're feeling like this desire for something and you're questioning like, why do I have this desire? But you're trying to like make yourself desire it, then you know that what I'm saying is the point to consider. All right, it's based on all the things that you've learned in your life and placed value on, and you've accepted it, and you haven't just yet questioned it. So that's the point to consider for today. There's a lot in this video, so I would suggest to watch it again or watch it from the beginning if you're just